Good evening and welcome to the Town of Lexington Special Council Budget Workshop Meeting focused on the upcoming fiscal year 2027 enterprise budget. These workshops are less formal meetings that allow council to receive information from staff and consultants and to discuss budget matters in detail. I will now call the budget meeting to order. We will move right into tonight's business item, the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget on enterprise funds, and we will start with Town Administrator Rachel Gleading. And I also wanted to encourage the council to listen to each other's questions tonight and take notes on their questions, so maybe we're not asking the same thing, because I know I tend to do that sometimes, so to take notes on what is being told to us. So Rachel.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, you'll first hear from Kathy, our Finance Director, and she'll give you a high-level overview of the status of the Enterprise Fund revenues expenditures. You'll then hear from David Wyman, our Utilities Director, and he'll walk you through some of the highlights of what's proposed for this year. And then at the conclusion of their presentation, we'll take questions and we can walk through the proposed budget that was provided to you all. Without further ado, I'll invite Kathy up. Michael should have the presentation.
Good evening. I'm going to start with an enterprise fund overview. We have strong long-term growth, primarily driven by utility revenues. So, over time, both water and sewer revenues have grown steadily. Water has increased from about $4.4 million in 2011 to $8 million in 2027. Sewer has grown more significantly from about $6.8 million to $21.8 million. This tells us that the sewer services are the primary driver of growth in this fund. Okay. For the year 2027, our revenue base remains stable and is driven almost entirely by water and sewer services. Sewer revenue is projected at $21.8 million and water is $8 million. Together, those two categories make up nearly 90% of total revenue, which is a strong indicator of reliability since these are recurring service-based revenues. We also see contributions from capital contribution fees and smaller sources like tap fees and miscellaneous income. And I would note that the interest income, we had a spike in recent years, but is expected to normalize. Basically, I'm very conservative about budgeting for interest income because it goes up and down with the economy. But we have budgeted $750,000 for interest for the year. For our expenditures, we see noticeable increases in recurring operating costs, salaries and benefits increase, and part of that is going to be just filling the positions because we did have some vacancies, and then there's some, just over time, the number of positions have grown. Other areas of consideration are contractual services, and then operating costs. So, for 2027, our biggest expenditure is going to be in the capital improvement plan, $15.2 million. Other major costs would be contractual services and salaries and benefits. But the higher total expenditures are largely driven by investment in infrastructure, not just operating costs. So this is a capital-heavy budget year. So our debt service coverage is looking good. Total coverage is projected to be 2.26 in 27. And even if you exclude the CCFs, we still remain above 1.5 times. Our bond requirements are 1.2 times. So that just shows that we're really strong in that area. The next chart shows you how our positions have grown over the years. As the customer base has grown, it requires more people to service the sewer and water lines and to service the customers. The headcount increases are modest. but there have been some compensation benefits and staffing changes. The key takeaway is that revenue remains strong and stable, driven by utility services. We are in a period of significant capital investment. Operating costs are increasing, but debt coverage remains healthy. Staffing growth supports operations but contributes to cost pressures. Overall, the enterprise fund is in solid financial position today with strong core revenues and debt coverage above required levels. With that being said, we see consistent increases in operating costs, including salaries, contractual services, and other expenses. That makes it necessary to have a rate study. You'll see in the finance department, I have budgeted for a rate study in the coming year. This is a year where we don't do a rate increase and we do the rate study. And historically, over the last 15, 20 years, we've done a rate study like every 6 years. The rate study is necessary because of the significant capital investment. It ensures that we maintain healthy debt service coverage ratios. It protects our financial position and our credit quality. It provides a forward-looking financial plan, establishes a multi-year rate strategy, and it'll provide for a long-term financial roadmap. And so now I'll turn it over to David.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. All right, so I'm going to start out with mentioning that when reviewing the budget, there are two primary takeaways I'd like you to focus on. They're the biggest ones. One is focus on hiring and retention, and the second is the commitment to capital investment, which Kathy alluded to in her presentation. So the proposed budget addresses our top concerns, which is essentially retaining staff, the active hydraulic models, our Millstream station upgrade, Shore Road Station and Force Main upgrade, and increased pump repair and replacements. So in order to look forward, sometimes it's good to look back and see where we've come from. So we had talked about doing a few things. I'm just going to walk us through real quick. In fiscal year 25, phase 1 of our hiring and retention initiatives, we talked about reorganizing positions with standard industry names, providing a path for promotion through the new positions. We talked about a sign-on bonus, a referral bonus, and establish O&M and culture expectations for the entire team. So all of these things have been completed. In phase 2, which was fiscal year 26, most of those are completed. We're still working on filling critical positions with qualified staff. I'll say we're a little bit hopeful. We've filled a lot of the major positions. We have a few that are still vacant, but we have talent and potential within the department that we are working to develop that I think can fill those positions. So it's not quite as bleak as it sounds. We have provided training on regulations, how to do the job properly. This training was thought highly of, and I was asked to provide that training at the Midlands Capital District for the Environmental Association. We also are working on providing and repairing needed tools and equipment, and some of that you will see in the budget as well, as we have a lot of of vehicles that have hit the end of their life and are failing on us. Phase 3, which is our current focus, is adjusting pay grades for positions requiring D-level certifications or higher, existing prior to fiscal year '25, and also growing the internship program that we had rolled out in the previous phase. So the next is the current org chart that we rolled out in phase 1. The names of the innocent have been redacted to protect them from public humiliation. I left mine, I'm used to it. So the proposed budget would include no new positions, but it would include a new position for position spot, which would be trainee. So underneath, before, if we hired people in that have no experience, no certifications, they would come in at a trainee role. And that would be at a proposed pay grade 8. From there, once they satisfy their requirements, they would be promoted up into a level D certification. And then from there, it would continue on as we've done. And I'll circle back to the promotions in a little bit to tell you about how we've done on that. So I think it's important to note that since fiscal year '23, we have dropped our field vacancies from 65% to 22%, which is a pretty large amount, obviously. And overall, we're sitting at 41 of our 51 positions are filled. So that's 20%. So as a whole, we've made progress on the hiring front. And digging into this slide, this highlights that retention is not a new issue. So if we go back for the past 10 fiscal years, what we see is that of the 64 employees hired, only 17 remain with the town. That is a little over 26%. So significant, because all of that turnover means we are continually hiring, we are continually interviewing, we are continually training, and we are rinse, wash, and repeat. And that's taxing on everybody. And that includes more than just our department, because of course, we're running background checks. HR is onboarding. So it goes on, it touches a lot of people, has a big impact. I'm going to point out for the mayor, because she had the luck of seeing us at work, the team out on a job that ran till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And the experienced worker that was in the hole that night is no longer with us. So
Man.
I think you affectionately refer to him as Big Arms. He was in there flexing in the
I tried to
holes.
arm wrestle him, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so he left for another job, making a significant amount more.
Oh my, he was so,
Yeah, one of the few people we were able to bring in who had some experience that translated. So just to make it a little bit more personal. This slide also highlights what it takes to maintain. So if you look at that slide, the last 3 years, we have been hiring a lot of people, between 15 and 16. This year, we're already at 15 hired, and we still have a quarter to go. And so that trend doesn't look to stop anytime soon. Next slide. So as they're coming in, one of the things that's important to, well, I think I was jumping ahead of myself, so I'm going to pause real quick. In order to change things, you have to track things. So obviously, I track a lot of things. I'm going to hit you with some data here, but the most important thing to take away from this slide is that 66% of the people who have left in fiscal year '25 and '26 so far, left for better pay or less overtime. There's other things listed there, no certification requirements, take-home vehicles in some case, or a combination of all those things. So working in the utilities field, it's a commitment. It's not easy. It's not easy on your families. And a lot of people, especially if they're young, they're coming into the industry, they give it a try, they go, this isn't for me, and they walk out the door. And the bottom left points out that 80% of the people that left during that time frame, less than a year. I challenge, how many people actually know what their job entails, in a matter of months? Not many. So that's a big deal. And honestly, the sign-on bonus elongated that, because once people realized they had to pay their sign-on bonus back, if they didn't make it a year, we had at least 3 people that stayed a year, then left, just so they wouldn't have to pay back the bonus. So I've been talking to Rachel. We've evaluated whether the sign-on bonus is actually bringing us value. It probably has some good application with the town. Not sure it is in utilities, so that might be something that we look at later and maybe do away with. This just highlights, again, coming at a different angle from what you saw financially in Kathy's presentation. Water customers have increased 10% over that time period that's shown there, which is the preceding 5-6 fiscal years. Sewer customers, 22%. Our staffing, 4% during that time. Overall, our customer base has grown to 18%. So that 18% means, of course, additional workload, more assets to manage, et cetera. That said, when I was up here before, I told you we had some plans to roll out. I think last year I had 2 councilmen that asked me what I needed, and I told you I wasn't going to ask for anything until I proved that we were implementing and bringing forward what I had already asked for. To that end, I'd like to point out that despite the growing systems, despite having a workforce that is majority untrained, we have been able to consistently drop the overtime that we've been paying out. And this is due to it's a multifaceted attack, which is basically we are training people, we are focusing on preventive maintenance, we're focusing on instrumentation and other things that give us data to make informed, smart decisions. And we're also working on that culture change that we've talked about. It's a large crew. Nothing's perfect, but we are definitely going in the right direction. And I think that this is one of the few metrics that helps put that into perspective. Fiscal year 26, by the way, that's projected based on the monies through, I think, 3/4 of the year, and then projected out the last quarter based on that. So,
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can you just explain, we got numbers on 2 y-axes there.
correct. Okay, so based on the federal labor standards, we have to report overtime, which is just what you think it is. We also have double time. So the red line is our double time. So anytime our folks work on weekends, they get paid double time. Holidays, they get paid double time. The gray line is straight time overtime.
What is the y-axis, though?
The y-axis is the double time and the straight overtime, because that is such a small amount compared to the regular overtime.
No, David, I think what we're asking is you got numbers on either side. There's numbers on the left side, numbers on the right side.
So the numbers on the right side are for double time and straight time. So if you look at that, for example, your straight time overtime projected for fiscal year '26 is $25,000 on the right axis.
So for the blue line, look at the left, for the other two, look at the right.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And, I'm sorry, and the numbers, so blue line left, the other's right, and that's, what do those numbers represent? Those numbers represent,
The three types of
I
overtime
mean,
that
they
we pay
represent
out.
hours, or they represent
Money,
money?
yep.
So in fiscal year '26, we're saying that there's $80,000, I'm sorry, there's a, like almost $120,000 overtime item for the blue line, and the others are around 10 and 20,000.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. I mean, those are relatively small overtime numbers for $3 million in salaries, right?
They are. And again, we try and be efficient. So you'll never get rid of overtime. There's
Right.
a lot of jobs we have to plan to do after hours. A lot of times when the breaks happen, you go and respond and they turn into overtime. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, but we're proud of it. This is one of those, I'm going to walk you through this one too. This slide here just highlights the buy-in of existing staff as they work towards the promotion paths that we created. So on the left side, there's a line down the middle that shows distribution. The blue dot is where we were fiscal year '24. So in distribution, we had 11 D-level certifications on staff in fiscal year '24. Now we have 12. We had 0 C-level, now we have 1. We had 1 B-level distribution, that was the previous director. We now have 3 on staff. On the right side of the line, those are collection system certifications. So previously we had 4, now we have 7. And B-level, they had 0 and we have 5 currently. So that helps highlight, one, the certifications that are coming. The other thing of note is that staff has passed 15 distribution and 10 collection system certification exams in that time period. You cannot receive a certification until you have reached minimum experience time. So that's why tracking of exams is different than certifications on staff. LLR will hold. You have to have a minimum of 1 year before you get a D. You have to have 2 years before you get a C. So we have some staff that have passed exams. LLR is just going to hold that application until the timer goes off, then they'll mail out the certification. So exams passed will spike before the certifications catch up to it. And in that time period, 9 employees have earned promotions since the reorganization. So we're proud of that because that buy-in is from both field staff and supervisors. So yes, you have the buy-in of the field staff that say, hey, I like this, I'm going to work towards it. But you also have supervisory staff that have given time tutoring, that have signed them up for external trainings. We have sat down with them during annual reviews and talked about their future, where they want to be in the organization, and what we need to do to support them. That might be leadership classes. Last week, while we were at a conference, we had a potential supervisor in training who we allowed to fill the role on an interim basis. And then we were with him via conference calls, phone calls, emails the whole way, and we let him get a taste of it. So that way, by the time we get to a point where we're promoting someone, it's not a question of whether they can do the job or whether they get into the job and decide they don't like it. By the time we develop them for that, hopefully they know that they want to be in that role that time. So that's just, I want you to kind of, as we work back to the beginning, get a feel for where we're going.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
David, with these certifications, are these employees receiving promotions based on that? Or is it?
So the way the promotions work, certifications are a part of that for sure. But besides certification exams passed, you also have to pass competencies. So we have competency tests that as they demonstrate those, we have checklists that go through, this checklists are done, and then that, along with the certifications, qualify them for a promotion.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So the last one is about personnel. I talked a little bit about the utility portion in terms of we're not adding any new positions. Let me rephrase that. We're adding a new position. We are not adding any additional staff. So we would be adding a training position, and part of that is as people are working towards it, if they decide to leave, they leave at a trainee position salary as opposed to a certified operator pay rate. All in, if you're looking through our proposed changes that I'm requesting, it totals about $246,000, which is less than 1% of the proposed budget. So I think it's really a small investment to work towards being one of the best utility staffs in the Midlands, and hopefully help turn around and help us be the prime employer that we want to be. With that, if there's no questions on that, I'll turn it over for Kathy to talk about her requested.
Yeah.
Do you want to do questions now?
Whatever you like, we can do it now, we can do it after.
What's Kathy going to do now? Yeah, you just go ahead and do the whole presentation.
I was just gonna tell you a little bit about, we need another position in finance due to the increased number of customers, the growth in the fund size, increased compliance and reporting requirements, and we need stronger financial planning and analysis. So it was just a justification for the position I need in finance.
Okay, now we will start with questions, and please make sure you're Todd.
Ask for the floor. Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, you may.
So like, I think we have 51 allocated positions that we budgeted for. We have 41 filled. So we had 10 salaries that we didn't use, or not using in this current fiscal year, which just for ease sake, let's just call that 600 grand.
$1 million plus.
Million. Pays a little better. So where did we allocate the $1 million that was budgeted for this fiscal year that hasn't been used for salaries?
That will fall into fund balance, and if you look at the funds and expenditures and then other sources and uses, we're planning on using $11 million of fund balance to pay for a lot of the capital projects. for one-time expenditures, so that's kind of where that went to.
When you say capital projects, are we allocating that for some of these, is that for new capital projects, or was that for some of our aging pump stations that maybe we're behind on? I mean, it's $11 million, there's a lot of stuff in there. I just want to know what's the priority, because that's kind of an undesignated number that gives us some flexibility to play catch-up.
It does a little bit. So what we talked about doing was going back. We have a lot of pumps we have to purchase. And so the thought would be to ask for approval to take that money and put it towards the pumps that need buying.
So do you have like an internal priority list of
We do.
smaller capital projects, kind of like our LTIP for
We do.
transportation?
Yep.
Okay.
If I may, Councilman Carnes, we're speaking about two things capital related. One, capital equipment, which in the budget packet on page 31 represents those particular pumps that we're talking about as they're prioritized. And then separately, the larger capital projects that we've been planning for the past few years.
Right.
So between those two things, that would encompasses the 11 million.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Smith.
you were done, right? Tom?
You go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. I have a question for Kathy, and then I have one for David. I'll start with Kathy since she just got up. So Kathy, in reviewing the finances, I noticed two things. First, that our operating expenses grew at about 8.8%, 9%. But our revenues are only growing at a rate of about 2.83%. Should that give us any cause for concern? How sustainable do you feel that is? What kind of trajectory is that putting us on as we move forward, especially as we're looking at these substantial capital improvements, and then also knowing we have some even more substantial capital improvements in years to come?
I think that just speaks to the fact that we need the rate study so that we can analyze the rates and we can analyze the growing costs and see what we need to do going forward, which is one thing we've got budgeted in the 27 budget.
Okay. I somewhat interpret that as loosely we're in need of a rate increase.
More than likely.
Okay, good to know. And then one more financial question for you. So I noticed in reviewing the financials also that the debt service coverage ratio declined from a 3.58 to a 2.26. Obviously, that's well over the obligation that we have to fulfill, the 1.2. However, seeing that decline obviously raised a red flag for me. Now, I did go back and look historically, I think since 2022, and it's been even lower than a 2.26 at times. So I guess my question is, how comfortable are you with that debt service coverage ratio? Is there any concern with our ability to service debt, especially knowing that these significant capital improvements are coming, again, in this fiscal year, but also in years to come?
In the short term, I don't see that there's a problem, but I think it does speak to the need to do the rate study to make sure that we've got everything covered.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Madam Mayor, if I may ask
Yes.
David.
I thought you.
So David, I want to take a minute to just say on the record that you have just, I'm so impressed with the work that you've done in the Utilities Department. And I want to be on the record saying that because anytime that I have called you, whether it's on a Sunday afternoon, I specifically remember calling you on a Sunday afternoon, or if it's in an evening, you always answer the call. And you always help me find a solution. So I'm impressed by many of the things that you showed today, but also just your ability to be reached and how responsive you are. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
I think that you were the first hire we as council contributed to when I came on council. You came in right after I came on council, so it's been fun to watch the job that you've done since I've been here. So thank you for the work that you've done. Now, on to my question. So a few months ago, we all read the story in the state newspaper that highlighted the sewer spill, the sanitary sewer overflow or whatever. Yep. And you mentioned in our conversations and also in that article that there were a few things that contributed to that, which was pump failure, an alarm system issue, the system being overwhelmed because of heavy rain. I know that you took a number of steps to prevent that in the future, but one thing that you specifically mentioned is that you need to budget for a hydraulic model. So I'm not an expert on the enterprise fund. I'm still learning. Is that included in this budget? And is there anything else that you need to ensure that an issue like that doesn't happen in the future?
So regarding that issue specific, you're going to see two things called out in the budget. One is the hydraulic model. Two, you're going to see a Millstream station upgrade project. That project is going to address a lot of the issues at Millstream, which, for those of you that don't know, is our crown jewel of the sewer system. So I think maybe 90 to 95% of all of our flow goes through that station. And if it's not up and working properly, we put ourselves at risk. So that project addresses a lot of those issues. It gives us flexibility. It addresses our ability to properly maintenance pumps and wet wells and things that frankly hadn't been done before. I'd be remiss, especially since you gave me a compliment, if I didn't point out that a lot of the issues on getting over the hump fall on the shoulders of my team. So between Madison, Andrew Stubing, Bobby Larned, who's a recent hire for to supervise our system, and a lot of the staff that have been here that have bought into, they're much more focused on it now. They feel empowered to talk about what they need, where their issues are, so that we can focus on it. So I let Rachel know quite a while ago that before you can get to where you want to go, you have to get your house in order, and we were going to take some lumps in doing that, because when you do things properly, you wind up in the paper sometimes. And I assure you there's absolutely zero joy, as you know, being politicians, being in front of a newspaper person asking answering the hard questions. But you got to do it, and you got to own it, and you got to say, we understand why it occurred, and we understand what we need to do to prevent it. So that's what we did. And I look forward to the city of Columbia recapturing its title next year.
So David, just to be clear, I don't think any of us mind answering the hard questions. We should do that. Mm-hmm. But what I want to make sure that we're doing is empowering you to do the hard work. Because at the end of the day, we might answer questions, but we're not in the trenches with y'all doing the hard work. So I want to make sure, just to be clear, you're getting the hydraulic model that you need through this budget.
We are, yes.
Is there anything else that you need to ensure, and I understand that you can't say with 100% certainty, but to make sure that something like that doesn't happen in the future? Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
I'm going to say the rate case, so that in the future, because when that hydraulic model comes out, and by the way, one of the other things we're doing, which I didn't touch on, is we are doing CMOM investigations. CMOM is just an acronym. It means we're going out, we're actively investigating where we have issues. We're using sonar to listen for issues in pipes. We're using cameras to find where leaks are. The areas, say the Watergate system we purchased, where we have high I&I, if we can identify where those things are, understand where we have infrastructure that is failing, you add that together with the flow projections and the hydraulic model, that's going to tell us where we need to spend our money. And that's going to be a game changer. Now, it may highlight things we don't know about currently. So as long as we've got a vision for the future and we're proactively attacking it, I think we're going to be in good shape.
All right. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
So before I let somebody else speak, David, I'm going to take this privilege and say something. For the last month, I've spent more time with your department than I probably really would like to, but we have spent a lot of time together lately because of fiber companies and different things going on. I've been learning so many things, and what you were just talking about using the different equipment to look at different pipes and to check all different kinds of things is there. And just knowing what y'all do, from watching the 2 water main breaks that I've experienced, one of them from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to, I think y'all went to after midnight, getting one of them fixed, the other one fixed a lot quicker for y'all. But with that being said, what he's talking about is important, but what's really important is that team that you had to get in place, your house that you had to get in place. And taking care of our employees means taking care of our citizens, because they are the ones doing the work every day. I watch these people there for hours, including the management coming out and staying, you, Maddie, and Madison and others. It's harder than ever, and I know that from owning a small business, to find qualified people willing to step into these roles. When we lose good employees, we lose experience, efficiency, and service quality. And those are not easy to replace, and we all know that. I watched that young man that you're talking about down in that hole for hours, working, and steady working, and knew what he was doing. Recruiting is tough. Training is costly. Retention is critical. We already have a strong, dedicated team. If we are not intentional about supporting and keeping them, it would directly impact the level of service our citizens receive. If we want Lexington to continue to thrive, we must invest in the people who make it run. And that's not only for your department, that's for all the departments here. Our staff, watching them, being in the field with them, and seeing what they do across the board, all of them, from the videos that are done, from the stories that are covered, and making sure we're being covered right in the media when we can, to watching you come out at 9 o'clock at night to check on your people and be there with them, bring them pizza, bring them stuff to drink, watching our upper management. All of our people is what makes this town hall run and be efficient for our citizens. And that's what should be most important to every one of us up here. And making sure, like Mr. Smith said, of having the equipment that you need to do the job. Now, we do all know we have a budget and we have to work on those kind of things, but it is important to take care of y'all. And retraining somebody is costly, so we should take that into consideration. Making sure that somebody has a driver's license is costly. Getting those CDLs are expensive. So all of these things play into it when we're looking at these budgets, and I think more than anything, we need to make sure we're investing in our people too, to keep y'all.
Well,
Madam Mayor?
Definitely
Yes.
appreciate that.
David, there was a couple of questions I had. One, to piggyback on the mayor, is the constant hiring normal for this industry, or is this happening more in the town of Lexington?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely symptomatic in the industry. Let's go back before COVID hit. Our industry nationally was 50% baby boomers. South Carolina, that number was 55%. Okay, South Carolina is also one of the fastest growing states. So our workforce is aging out. Our infrastructure is increasing. It's putting a burden on everybody. When COVID hit, the baby boomers were an at-risk population. So they were allowed to stay home in a lot of instances. They realized, like, this is pretty good. I like this. I'm going to retire. So it hastened the retirement that we're seeing. So that's the long answer to say, yeah, absolutely. And what that does, it ramps up who we're competing against. And this industry, we are competing against other municipalities, we're competing against special service districts, we're competing against private employers. So we are competing against Michelin. The employee we referenced before went to Starbucks processing, $5 more an hour. You've got the brewing company in Columbia that is stealing industry. Why? Because these places have water and sewer on site. They have mechanical needs that the people we train have, pipe abilities. So the well-crafted jack of all trades that we are developing are in high need across, and we're competing with all of them.
Got one more question. So on this budget, it looks like we're pretty capital heavy, capital investment. Is that, in your opinion, is this, to piggyback on Councilman Smith, is this enough, or is this a Band-Aid, or is this, because in the future, I mean, it's important for our water system, our sewer system to be maintained, to get up to standards, to continue to move and advance in replacing, making sure it is some infrastructure that is in place for a long time to come.
So absolutely true. And I'm also going to piggyback, whoever mentioned that we had to balance that, with the budget. I'm going to assure you that this staff right here, we put in hours in that conference room together, going through that capital budget painstakingly, trying to prioritize, trying to make sure that we kept the balance of money to keep us where we are financially, yet provide the coverage in the time to address those needs. So it was not a decision that any of us took lightly, but it was something that when we got done, we felt really good about. It was and I assure you, I went through that process on the entire budget, the operating. If you went line by line, you'll see things that drop down, and you're probably going, why'd this reduce? It reduced because we needed that money somewhere else in the budget. And increasing budget line items, it was not something that I took willy-nilly, and when you apply that to the top, it's something that we all take very seriously.
Yeah, I noticed that the chemicals jumped significantly.
Yes, so chemicals, that's going to be the move going from lime feed to mag hydroxide. Mag hydroxide is going to be something that is going to address the H2S. So when we're looking long-term, hydrogen sulfide gas eats away the systems, and we have a lot of issues because of that. So rolling out this change over to mag, changing the location where we pump it, so we go out as far as we can, put a small system, let it flow through. That'll protect the tributaries before it gets to our main lines. So that's what you're seeing on that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I'll go.
Okay. Councilman Williams?
So David, how close will we be on estimated expenditures versus actual expenditures for this year? Does anybody have a swag? And not just put David on the spot, but Miss Kathy, do you?
Yeah, we may have to have Kathy grab that for you.
I gave my best swag, but I'm going to state that my expertise is not financial.
Well, while they're looking for that, how many times can we rebuild some of these pumps? Because I know when I first came on as a council member, we had to fly a pump out of here one time because we didn't have enough pumps to fill a hole to rebuild it.
Yeah, and that's
Does it vary by what happens to it? Is it kind of like a car motor? You can rebuild it, but then something flies apart, you can't rebuild it
you
because you tore it all up?
You can do it for a certain amount of time. Eventually, the volute is going to wear out, so that all of a sudden they're not efficient anymore. There's all kinds of things that are going out there. And again, we have 136 stations with more coming on every day. We haven't even fully cataloged all of the pumps that we have in our system. We're going through, in order to do that, you have to pull them all out. You have to get the nameplate data. You have to try and determine when were they put in there. And there's a lot of records missing. So we're still going through that process. But we've identified the most critical. And as we're working through our critical list, we're catching up on the back end with the other. Of course, we also added an asset coordinator and planner. So as we get these things, they're now actively being managed. So when we buy new pumps, for example, we've got a system now where we have the warranty. If this thing fails beforehand, we're going to warranty. If this thing has been repaired at some time, we'll go back to them and say, hey, is this, did the repair hold, or is this, a new type of item? So to answer your question, it varies. But yes, there is a lifespan. You can only repair a pump so many times.
Okay.
So if you look on page 5 of the document that we sent out, the second column is our 26 estimate, and this is the fund as a whole. And the third column is the 26 amended budget. So we had planned to spend $9 million of fund balance, but if you look at our estimate, we're figuring we're not going to spend but like $121,000. So our revenues have come in higher than expected. Our expenses are a little bit lower. Part of that is going to be salaries because we do budget as if every position is fully filled for the whole year. So that has a lot to do with why the expenses come in a lot lower.
Well, that's certainly a great thing. And then I noticed on page 3, under operating expenses, some of the salary numbers are up, administration, finance, information technology, building and maintenance, all those numbers seem to be shifting around.
Part of that is the restructuring that we did in 25.
Okay?
So 26 was the first full year of that restructure, so yeah, it did kind of shift around.
Okay, and then back to Mr. David. I noticed on your capital expenditure on page, not one, enterprise funds, 31, there it is, over on the side. You're asking for 11 trucks, and you specified which trucks, but it just says 100,000 miles. Can you, could you get for us the actual mileage on those trucks? So we're not, are we talking 200,000 miles on some of these trucks, or are we talking 105,000 miles?
No, I don't think we have any that make it to 200,000. Life is tough for those, but yes, we do have that document. We have the issues for each truck, so I can get that for you. The majority are in that 95,000 to 115,000. We've got trucks with 90,000 where the transmissions have shot. We've got axles breaking on the back because we're towing trailers and that are filled with soil, dry going, wet coming back. It's a rough life. They idle a lot, which is not good for engines, as you know. So we deferred 4 last year to try and get last year's down, and to a degree that kind of bit us in the butt this year and kind of made it look a little bit worse. So, but yeah, if you need that, I can get you the list of the trucks, how many miles they have on them, and what the issues are with each of them.
Well, I also noticed that there's one truck listed, U18-6 is listed twice. So I'm wondering if it's a different truck out there, or if we just,
Probably a typo.
yeah.
I would imagine.
I think that's all I wrote down at this point. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Ma-
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Todd. You have it.
All right, I think I'm ready now. Rapid fire, and you try to just give me the high level. But Kathy, I looked at the positions. I didn't see a new position. I thought what I saw was 12 and 12 as far as total number of employees in finance.
The position chart does not have the new positions in it, just because it's not approved. So the position chart that's in your packet, I don't know what page that is.
Will it be listed in yours?
So on page 26, that's what you're talking about?
Maybe. I mean, where it was showing total number of employees.
So This page is just
Yeah.
what's in the current budget. So if we add position, like if we add a position to finance, it'll be added to this. So we'll have 12 and 27 instead of 11.
Okay, well, like, yeah, on that page, it says current year, fiscal year 2026, 62 total employees, budgeted fiscal year 2027, 62 total employees. What am I
This
missing?
page is just what's already approved. This doesn't include positions that have not been approved.
But we hadn't approved 2027.
We haven't approved 2027.
Okay. So, so is there a request for that to go to 63?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's, that'll do in that. But in that same vein, I mean, obviously, this is a very complex document, so all we can do is kind of look at overall trends and try to just understand trends. And on page 3, where we're in operating expenses, like operating expenses, fiscal year 2025, operating expenses on third line down, we have finance at 1.53, 1,530,961. You with me there? Mm-hmm. And then it's at 2.333 in fiscal year 2027. It's like a 50% increase in 2 years. So, and I know we haven't added that many staff, or I just, something's amiss there. Maybe you could fill in that blank for me?
Let me look. Yeah, we did add 2 meter readers in 26, so that would be significant, plus 2 more trucks in 2026, which would be significant.
2 trucks, what does that mean?
We
Physical
had,
trucks?
we had 2 trucks in 25, and in 26, we had 4 trucks. In 25, we had 2 meter readers, in 26, we had 4 meter readers. Part of that was due to the size of the system, and part of that was taking over some of the AMI work that had been being done by utilities. It works better for it to be done by our meter readers that that work with the annual billing, and it took a little bit of work off of David and his crew.
So there was some transfer of personnel from the utilities line to the finance line. to
Well,
Justin's.
utilities didn't change their number of personnel. We added to the finance and took over some of the work.
Okay, I'll jump in that one, because like the same thing, I'm just trying to get my mind around the numbers. Because like in utilities, if you come down 4 lines, the utilities line is 12.5 million, and then it goes to 17.7.
The 25 is actual numbers. So for utilities, in 25, they were not fully staffed. But when we budget as if they were fully staffed. So there were positions that are vacant today that we're counting the expenditures in 27. But in 25, that's an actual number, so that would be the actual salary, well, the actual expenses of that year.
Okay. All right, so based on fiscal year 26, we have a budget of 16.4, and we've got an estimate of 13.4, so we got $3 million of budgeted money that we don't anticipate spending in
Correct.
26. Okay. All right. And then Gavin had mentioned maybe the coverage ratio of 2.26, but the fiscal year 2027 budget on page 4, like we're projecting a 1.72 coverage ratio.
The 1.72 is without counting CCF revenue. If you go up about about halfway down the page, it says debt coverage ratio. That includes your CCF funds. So if you include CCF funds, the debt coverage is 2.26.
So the 1.2 benchmark, is that benchmark based on with CCFs or without CCFs?
With.
Okay. All right.
But since CCF revenue is not guaranteed, it's kind of like if they're doing development and the town's growing, you get CCF revenue, but there's a possibility that you could go a year without getting CCF revenue. So we like to look at it with just operational coverage to make sure that if we don't get CCF revenue, we're still covered.
Well, I know, like the bonding companies and the rating companies, they
look at that.
benchmark that,
Yes.
but I would imagine they benchmark it based on operational, not on
Right.
CCFs. All right. I think that covers it. So the additional finance position, is that a field-based position, or is that?
It's a customer service position. It would be for more reporting and analysis and taking care of the customers. Right now, our customer service ladies that work the windows also do a lot of reporting. So by having a person to do most of the reporting, that gives the customer service ladies the time to work the windows and to talk to customers on the phone and make sure our customer service is adequate or better than adequate.
Okay. Let's go to page 12 real quick. On page 12, towards the bottom, we've got sewer treatment and water purchases down kind of the last two lines before the first underline.
Yes, sir.
And so, in sewers, like the fourth column over is $4 million under sewer treatment, which prior years was 400,000, 19,000, and it jumped to 4 million.
That particular page is departments. So if you look at the top, so the first column is Department 370, the second column is Department 375, then 380, then 390 to come up with the total. So if you look back on page 11, that's all of the utility departments added together. So you can see the sewer treatment estimate for 26 is 3.5 million, and the budget for 27 is 4.4, which we had budgeted 5.2 and 26 based on the increases that Casey had given us in the prior years, and they didn't increase. They actually went down in 26, which we weren't expecting. So anyway, the budget goes down in 27. Does that make sense?
Well, I found those numbers on page 11, so I can go back and look at those. It's just that just caught my eye because it was.
Yeah, so page 12 is just having all the departments, showing how all the departments roll up.
Gotcha. All right. So that's not a year over year, that's different departments, I guess.
Right.
All right. And then I guess the final question, I don't know who this goes to, is I know that at some point in the not too distant future, there's going to be a required expansion of the sewer treatment plant in Casey. And so what kind of allocation plan do we have for that, or is that, do we have a capital allocation plan for that? Or we planning to bond out all that money? I know that's maybe going to be the most significant spend in the last 20 years, so is there a plan for that, or what does that look like?
We do have a 5-year capital improvement plan. If you look on page 32 of the document. I don't know which one.
It's not included within that.
It's not included in 5 years, so we think it'll be more than 5 years?
We're still trying to evaluate that. So staff is meeting with Casey in the very near future to review the PER and better understand what the needs are going to be, and the plan will develop from there. the town as well as our partners with Joint Municipal and Casey. But it is not currently included in the 5-year CIP.
What is a PER?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. PER is professional engineering plan. So what that means basically is plans for the development. That's the first step in the process. So in the case of expansion, it will be the plant will go to an engineering firm and say, hey, we want a PER or we want a professional engineering plan of what this would look like. So they'll draw up designs for it, and then they'll start doing first drafts, so to speak, on what they think it will cost to do some sort of expansion. And then we'll start the process from there in terms of design drawings, 30, 60, 90% drawings. And as we get closer and closer to that 100%, we'll start dialing in on what that impact will be financially to the community. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Yes. All right, that's it.
Okay. Todd?
Briefly, good evening. I have just a couple of quick questions related to the contractual services. I'm not sure who's best suited to answer this, but it looks like we have and I was unaware of this, but we've got an Adams and Reese lobbyist finance line item for, looks like page 14 under 370, page 17 under 375, page 20 under 380, and page 23 under 390. There's different items, 7,600, 7,600, 14,250, and 41,800, which totals $71,250. What are we getting for that? And is it necessary? And is it also necessary for each of those separate accounts?
I can speak to the separate accounts. We allocate costs for I-20 and what did we decide to call the other one?
Currently Watergate that will,
Yeah, I've given up on that. I've seen it printed about 15 times in here, so we obviously don't have.
But we allocate the different costs to the different plants so that when we come to do the rate study, we wanted to make sure that the customers in those areas are paying for the cost of redeveloping the plants and the lines
Okay,
and everything like that. So that's why we split it up.
all right, then maybe just holistically, what are we getting for $71,250?
Adams and Reese works with us to help identify and procure funding at the state level and the federal level for all of our projects, to very specifically actually include the wastewater treatment plant expansion. They help to connect us with funders. They work with both us and our partners to put together the financing options, possibilities, and explore different grants and those sorts of things.
And we've always been doing this?
It's my understanding, yes, since I've been here, yes.
Okay. I know we used to have a little bit more of a contractual relationship with someone, and we ended up deciding that wasn't a good use of funds. I don't think I was tracking that we were doing it here as well. But you feel good about the return on that? Is that, we believe that those are funds that we would not otherwise get access to?
Yes, sir.
Sounds unfortunate. Second question, on page 20, again with contractual services, trying to help understand the difference between, I guess it just gets muddy waters. I don't see the right-of-way clearing in such an abundance on all these until you get to the 380 account. Got $100,000 in right-of-way clearing. Are we really spending that on clearing right-of-way?
That's the goal, too. Our right-of-ways are not good shape, and so we're trying to plan to get to the right-of-ways. That's probably going to be something that we're dinged on once the regulators come through. You're supposed to have clear right-of-ways so that you can travel them during rain events, make sure low manholes are inspected, et cetera.
So what is Ziptility?
So that is our CMMS, computerized maintenance management system. So That's one where it's a work order system, essentially. It's also our asset management system, so we're in the process of building the work order portion of that.
So help me understand where there's 147,000 on Ziptility, water model management, water allotment, or right-of-way clearing. Is it that we did right-of-way clearing through Ziptility in 2026 and we plan?
No, I think those are all three separate line items that are lumped in.
It's only one line item.
That's in 26, so I don't know where it ended up in 27, do you know?
So the right-of-way clearing is broken out separately.
Was it in a different department for utility? Was it 390?
Probably was.
We had put it in a different account. Is Ziptility a lease, Chad?
It's not, no, it's not a lease.
Software as a service?
It might be software. Apologize, Chad and I were sitting next to each other trying to get this to all balance out.
Yeah, last year it was under 380, but I don't see it in 27.
I mean, realistically, it's one of those things that would be, I mean, we're talking about less than $22,000 allocated across all four of the three sewers and the water.
Would it have been moved to IT?
I was just trying to figure out with right-of-way clearing. That number surprised me, and then I looked down and saw Ziptility. It's, again, water model management. I'm looking at line 18 on page 20. Just trying to figure out the right-of-way.
Well, in 27, that line is blank. So
Yeah.
there's nothing budgeted for that line item in fiscal 27. We'll have to find out where Ziptility is at. I can't tell you. I mean, it's taking a minute to figure it out.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Will, do you have anything?
I did. First of all, thank you so much, David and Kathy, for all your hard work on this. Looking at page 32, I'm not sure if this was addressed earlier when I had to excuse myself, but in the corner of my eye, I see this freight train coming at us in 2029. And just for my sake and the public's sake, I'm curious, can you give us like a bird's eye view of 59, essentially, let's look at that bottom number, 59 million in CIP spending. Where are we game planning that to be coming from?
All right, so going down quickly over the projects, bringing this to one, we've got the parallel force main, one of the sections of the parallel force main. So that top line item, 20 million,
Right.
is, I believe, the parallel that's going to the Millstream plant. We also have an East Lexington sewer improvement that was previously budgeted. That's an item that once we have a hydraulic model, that may stay there or it may get pushed back. We'll know more once we have the hydraulic model. The same is let's see, we've got the Corley Mill, so that all depends on that sunset split and what needs to happen with the sewer line.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some very small projects. The next big one is also the parallel sewer. So we've got two sections of the parallel sewer main being done, going to Millstream and coming out of Millstream. They're both hitting at that time. We've got a ballpark number for the 378 booster station upgrade. That is a holder number. That's going to be informed by the hydraulic plan as well. Right now, all of the development happening on the west side of the service area, everything goes through that station. And that's a station where, when we have multiple rain events, we're already pumping and hauling from it. So to get it on the radar, we've got a placeholder there. We'll know more once we have the hydraulic model. Running down some more. It looks like the North Church Street water line, that was supposed to be done this year. We pushed it to next year to move up the emergency Corley Mill, where we lost that section of main under the bridge during the storm. When we were going through looking, we were like, we're going to have to push that out to make this year doable. So that was one of the ones we just slid. It's one of the worst water lines in town, honestly. So that one's staying on the budget, but just got pushed down. And that's the highlights, really, of that.
Right.
The two parallel force mains, those are big chunk items. So you add up very quickly when you're talking about $20 and $15 million projects, and that's not even the total of the projects those projects are split over 2 years.
Right, that's what I was looking at, 2029 and 30 as well.
Yep.
But when he gets the hydraulic studies, that's gonna help him prioritize the different projects, and we're gonna be doing the rate study, and we'll look at rates, and we'll look at doing some long-term debt. So we're developing a plan to cover all that stuff.
So, like bonding it out, is that essentially what we'd be doing? Okay. Because I was like, there's no way rates are going to cover.
No. But some of that might be able to be pushed out, I don't know. I mean, but that's the point of doing the hydraulic studies, is to make sure that we do the first things first.
Right.
And do what we have to get done and pay for what we have to pay for. We'll have a little bit of fund balance that we'll be able to use, cash reserves. And then we'll do the rate study, we'll do some rate increases, I'm sure.
We're going to look for grants. We have a meeting tomorrow, in fact, to discuss that. We have obviously ready-to-go projects for scope. I believe even, we didn't mention it, if we find it, it'll be great and it'll be a help, but I think there's a grant out there for places that don't have hydraulic models yet. So we're going to be combing through that and trying to come up with as much government money to help along the way as we can.
Excellent. Excellent, awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Gavin, I think you had some more questions.
Yeah, I have two final questions. Since you're at the podium, I'll ask you, David, first. I teach my students that keeping a customer is cheaper than going out and retaining a new customer. Similarly, as the mayor just said, it's cheaper to, and likely more beneficial, to keep an employee rather than to try and go get a new employee.
100%.
So last year during our planning session, over the last year, we've had conversations around salaries and benefits and all these things. And we've been told, wait until the budget process. So we are here. And I would like to just pointedly ask you, this budget proposal that you have put before us, is this what you need to recruit and retain employees in your department? Or is there something more that you need from this council? Because you have us right here now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
No, I think right now that's what we need. We need to obviously attract them and hopefully attract some experience. And then we need to keep them. And I think, Kevin asked me this question. He goes, how long is this good for? And I was like, Kevin, if if I could answer that question, I'd be making $1 million traveling the nation, preaching to other utilities. There's no way to know for sure. But as we stand here, it's our best guess that we make these changes and we're going to be competitive in the marketplace. And hopefully when we stand up in the future and I go back and we look at it, we start seeing that graph where the people we hire in those fiscal years, it stays green as opposed to turning red. And the amount of people we hire start trending down, so.
Got it. All right, and to wrap up on my question for you, the last question I want to ask you is earlier you highlighted that an employee left us for approximately $5 an hour. I did that math, assuming they work 40 hours a week. That's somewhere around $9,000 a year. That's less than 0.025% of the budget or something like that. I mean, it's nothing when compared to the overall budget. So my question for you is, in instances like that where maybe you had a really great employee that you'd like to retain, do you have the ability to go to that person and try to offer them something to keep them?
No.
You do not?
No, and to that point, we don't have a system as an organization that would even make it possible. We have, and here again, at the vision, I mentioned this. On the one hand, we have a system where we give merit raises to those that are doing their jobs. And that's a great thing. We move them through, and that's a recruiting tool. The flip side of that coin is there's no vacant piece of a pay grade that allows us to do anything for anybody. Everybody, if they're doing their jobs, is going to cap out. And two, since you put me on a soapbox, the pay bands are very close together. So you look at that and you go, man, that's $5. That $5 an hour put him above our assistant supervisors. So a person that has to have a certification capable of placing on the system plus the experience would make less than what he's getting paid to go, do that same work at Starbucks. So that just kind of highlights, we looked at it, we talked about it. We were like, man, is there anything we can do, anything we can talk? But there's really not. And as much as we did not want to lose this individual, even if you do something and it's out of the norm, I've got another 10 people who would be like, whoa, wait a minute. You're doing that for them, so I caution everybody, special circumstances isn't really what we want to do. What we want to do as an organization is create a system that is sustainable and it actually takes care of everybody who's a great worker where we go, we don't ever want to lose this person. We want this person to be here working for us, and we want this person training the next generation that's coming behind us.
I'd also like to piggyback on that because we talked about it over the summer as well. Personnel handbook doesn't give me or a director any leeway to adjust anyone's pay whatsoever. There's no leeway for hiring for, an additional, X percent if they meet a certain certification or X percent to try to retain someone. And I'm not necessarily saying that those are the best policies, but we just need to recognize that we don't have that ability. The ability to hire anyone above whatever the standard would be is a council decision. And again, we talked about that over the summer. It's inefficient for us to come to you all every time that happens. So that's another aspect that we could consider. What sorts of best practices do we have when it comes to hiring to give us a little bit more leeway? And I will say what David is proposing in recruiting someone, let's say someone who has a C certification, hey, we can hire you at a higher level grade as opposed to the entry-level trainee, which everyone comes in, whether you have nothing, whether you have a D, a C, or a B. Essentially, if you're applying for a technician, you all start at grade 8. So this new structure will help us with that to a certain extent. There will always be positions we're never going to be able to match. But goodness, did we ever try with this particular gentleman.
Well, I appreciate the context. I understand the point that you're making, David, that could be a really slippery slope. However, I do feel personally, for me as a council member, that we should empower you, Rachel. You are here running this organization every day. We are not, to make some decisions when maybe there is a critical decision where we want to do something in a special instance. You are the administrator. I think you should have the authority to do that in select situations. So maybe that's something we can look at as a council. But that's probably not a conversation for here.
I was going to look at Attorney David and ask whether that was a motion and if we could get a second.
I think that will be a deep one, so we
Yeah.
probably need to wait on that one because we've been here for a while.
Yeah, so thank you, David. And then I just have a quick question for Kathy. So Kathy, earlier you were talking about hopefully I'm sharing this all together correctly, but our debt service coverage ratio, including the capital contribution fees. So when you remove that, obviously lowers the debt service coverage ratio. But something that I noticed is that our tap fees last year and projected this year are, I wouldn't say substantially lower, but a good bit lower. So to me, that signals that development, commercial development or whatever is maybe slowing in the town. Now, if you look at Facebook, some would argue that's not true, but I noticed that in the budget. So I wanted to ask you, knowing that our debt service coverage ratio is tied to those capital contribution fees, and seeing the tap fees decrease, does that cause you any level of concern for servicing debt in the future?
Not really, because the tap fees are not the same as CCS. The
Okay.
CCS come in when
Right.
they're doing the big development and they're reserving capacity. Tap fees are more when you, a onesie twosie, when you're making sure I'm when you're connecting to the system.
Right.
So it's somebody that's not in a subdivision, they just had a piece of property, built a house, and they need to tap in, so they do a tap fee. Those are very uncommon, but we do have them occasionally, and it kind of fluctuates. But no, the development comes through the CCFs, and they are pretty strong.
Okay. So to be clear, for example, a tap fee is like I'm opening a restaurant, I want to connect to the system. That's as opposed to like a capital contribution fee I'm going to go build a new neighborhood or a new shopping center, I'm going to expand the system, so I'm contributing.
A tap fee is more like, I own a piece of property and I'm putting a house on it.
Right, right.
The restaurants, the businesses, they typically have to do a CCF. Because they have to, there's a residential equivalent unit that we consider, and depending on what the business does, we look to see how many of those equivalents that they would need to pay for to cover what they're going to be using of the system.
Got it.
So they
Okay.
tend to have to pay CCFs.
No, that's good context, because I know like in previous life when I was doing the restaurant here, I thought I was doing a tap fee, but maybe I was actually doing a CCF.
Probably.
Maybe I need to come learn more about
Matt.
that from you. We don't have to do that lesson tonight.
Can I jump in and,
The only thing I would add, just for clarity's sake, is they're not mutually exclusive. So the house that's connecting is still going to pay a CCF.
Okay.
A capital, it's just, of course, going to be for one house.
I think I found something I need to come learn more about.
can I jump in though, like every developer, every commercial project, everybody outside of this jurisdiction, when they talk about a CCF, they call it a tap fee. That's the colloquial way to use it, so I always say tap fees, I never say CCFs. Every time I say it, Rosemary goes, that's CCF. I'm like everybody else and brother calls it a tap fee. So you were right, it's just the technical language inside. I get it wrong all the time.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mayor, I have one more final question, I guess. On that same line of thought, for the capital contributions, 2 questions. Can we handle to maintain those non-cash contributions, and do we have replacement reserves for these assets?
The capital contributions that are non-cash, we don't budget for.
Okay,
So we receive property in exchange sometimes, and we consider it a capital contribution, but it's not a CCF, and it's not cash. And while it is revenue, we don't count it in the budget, because the budget is cash basis.
okay.
So what are you asking about reserving?
Well, if that went away, because the developers and builders do pay for a lot of those non-cash contributions, so it's not taxpayer dollars. If that amount, I guess, went away, do we have any replacement cash or reserves?
We have cash reserves, but the non-cash contributions is where somebody gives us sewer lines or a pump station when they're developing a property.
Okay,
So if they're not giving us the non-capital items, there's not property, there's not additional draw on the resources.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else before I wrap this up? Hearing none, thank you, staff, for all y'all did, all of y'all, for working on it so hard and being involved with it. We appreciate everything y'all have done to bring it to us. We don't need to make a motion to put this on the agenda, do we? Because it won't be till May, correct? Okay, so any comments from the public or the news media? Y'all, the public. Regarding tonight's agenda, budget, any additional comments from council or staff? That concludes our business for tonight's budget workshop. We are adjourned.